Broncos country, buckle up, because what I am about to lay out for you is going to make your blood boil. Three teams that the so-called experts have ranked ahead of your Denver Broncos in the win column this season are currently sitting in absolute chaos. Scandal, injuries, locker room drama, offensive lines getting bullied by backups, and yet somehow, some way, the odds makers and the talking heads keep printing win totals for these teams that are higher than what they are giving Denver. It is insane. It is offensive. And by the time we are done today, you are going to understand exactly why the Broncos are the most disrespected 9.5-win team in the entire National Football League. So sit back, get comfortable, and let's tear into the mess that is the New England Patriots, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Buffalo Bills. Before we dive into the wreckage, if you have not already done so, smash that like button and hit subscribe right now. This channel lives and dies by you, Broncos country, and the algorithm rewards us every single time you engage. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Let's start with New England, because their situation might be the messiest of the three. The Patriots are currently being installed as favorites over Denver when the two teams meet later this season, and they are projected to win more games than a Broncos team that just won 14 games a year ago and turned around and added Jalen Wallace to the receiver room this offseason. Explain that one to me, because here's what is actually happening in Foxborough. Head coach Mike Vrabel spent this offseason at the center of one of the messiest storylines in recent NFL memory. Photos surfaced back in April showing Vrabel and veteran NFL reporter Deanna Rossini together at a resort in Sedona, Arizona, and the fallout was immediate. Rossini re-signed from her position covering the league just about a week later. Vrabel has publicly called the whole thing an innocent interaction between colleagues, and Rossini has said the same. But the optics have been a disaster for a Patriots franchise that spent all of last season selling the fan base on faith, family, and football as the identity of this locker room. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot market a wholesome, buttoned-up culture and then have your head coach's personal life splashed across every gossip outlet in America during training camp. Insiders have suggested the story is not fully finished either, with speculation that Rossini could eventually sit down for a televised interview to tell her side, which means this cloud could follow the Patriots deep into the regular season. And it is not just off-the-field noise. On the field, New England has a genuine mess brewing at cornerback. Star corner Christian Gonzalez, fresh off an all-pro caliber season that saw him help carry this team to the Super Bowl, is still without a new contract as camp rolls along. Seattle's Devin Witherspoon just reset the entire cornerback market with a 4-year deal worth over $130 million, averaging $33 million a year. And now Gonzalez, who shares an agent with Witherspoon, is sitting there waiting for New England to make him whole. Owner Robert Kraft has publicly claimed the team has offered Gonzalez a deal that would make him the highest-paid corner in football, but reports indicate talks have stalled into what one insider called a holding pattern, with Gonzalez reportedly more concerned about the salary cap jumping next year than about getting a deal done right now. That is not exactly the sign of a franchise cornerback who is thrilled with where things stand. And on top of that, New England has been scrambling along the offensive line all summer, recently signing multiple depth pieces off the street, including a former Broncos practice squad lineman who never made Denver's 53-man roster. Think about that for a second. Broncos country. A player Denver did not feel was worth a roster spot is now getting snapped up by a team that odds makers think is going to outwin us. Make it make sense. Now let's move on to the team that might frustrate me more than any other team in this conversation, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati is somehow projected to win more games than the Broncos this season. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because this is an organization that has not sniffed the playoffs in 3 straight years. This is a franchise notorious around the league for being one of the cheapest in professional football. An organization where players have openly grumbled for years about facilities and spending, And their head coach, Zach Taylor, is a man who, by all accounts, should have been fired multiple off-seasons ago after this franchise kept missing the postseason, yet somehow keeps getting another chance. Cincinnati opened its preseason against the Detroit Lions, and things did not go according to plan for Joe Burrow's offensive line. On the opening drive, Burrow got sacked for a 9-yard loss by a Lions pass rusher who was not even a household name, and later in that same first half, he was hit again while trying to throw on a third down. Now, to be fair, the Bengals actually won that game, and Burrow himself was not seriously hurt, finishing 5 of 6 passing. But that has not stopped fans and analysts from sounding the alarm, with one former NFL linebacker publicly calling for Cincinnati to pull Burrow from preseason action altogether after watching him get knocked around by a defense that was without most of its starters. And when your franchise quarterback, a guy who has already dealt with a laundry list of significant injuries over the last several seasons, is getting hit behind a line that cannot hold up against backups in a meaningless August exhibition, that is not a small concern. That is a 5-alarm fire heading into a real season. Part of the problem is where Cincinnati's money is going. A massive chunk of this team's salary cap is tied up in receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, along with Burrow's own quarterback contract, which leaves precious little left over to actually build a competent offensive line or a formidable defensive front. And Cincinnati made that problem worse this offseason by letting star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson walk in free agency. Watching him land with a conference rival while their big splash on the other side of the ball was bringing in an aging defensive tackle well into his 30s. This is a front office that has consistently prioritized paying its stars while neglecting the trenches, and it is finally catching up with them in a very public way. And yet, despite all of that, despite the missed playoffs, despite the cheap ownership, despite the offensive line issues on full display for the entire football world to see, Cincinnati is still being projected to outwin Denver. Absolutely baffling. Now let's talk about Buffalo, because I actually understand a little more of the reasoning here. The Bills are being projected to win 10.5 games compared to Denver's 9.5, and look, I do think Buffalo probably wins that AFC East over a scandal-plagued Patriots team. But even here, there is more instability than people want to admit. Buffalo just handed the keys to their franchise to Joe Brady, a first-time head coach who has never called the shots at any level of professional football before this year. And the concern in Buffalo is significant enough that the front office went out and brought in a senior assistant coach with real head coaching experience to help mentor him along. A coach who took 2 different franchises to the Super Bowl but never actually got over the championship hump himself in either stop. Bringing in a mentor who has been agonizingly close to a title but never closed the deal is an interesting message to send about how much confidence you truly have in your rookie head coach handling the moment. On top of that, there have been whispers from league insiders about the dynamic between Brady and superstar quarterback Josh Allen, given how close in age the two are and how tight they have become off the field. In pro sports, history has shown time and time again that a healthy tension between a star player and his coach is often necessary. And insiders have flagged the buddy-buddy relationship as something worth monitoring if adversity strikes during the season. Buffalo also handed defensive play calling duties to a first-time NFL defensive coordinator this year, a respected coach who spent the last 2 seasons in Denver working in the secondary, but had not actually called defensive plays at any level since his final season coaching college ball back in 2022. That is a significant leap of faith for a defense that is trying to change its identity. And Buffalo has already been hit by a suspension of its own, with a defensive lineman getting popped for the first 3 games of the regular season over a substance policy violation dating back to an incident from his time with a previous team. One prominent Bills content creator even put out a warning to the fan base ahead of the preseason, essentially telling people not to expect to feel great about what they were seeing on the field. And Broncos country, when you have to prepare your own fan base for disappointment before the games even count, you have already lost that battle. Now let's flip the page and talk about what is actually happening in Denver, because this is where the story gets fun. While these three so-called contenders are dealing with scandal, suspensions, shaky offensive lines, and rookie head coaches leaning on retread mentors, the Broncos have quietly been building the most stable, most explosive roster in this entire conference. This is a team that won 14 games a season ago and then went out and added a legitimate difference maker at receiver. The early returns on this offense with a fresh play-calling approach have been outstanding, with several of the issues that plagued this unit a year ago already showing signs of disappearing. And on defense, the biggest storyline heading into the summer was whether Denver's dominant pass rush would remain intact, given the uncertainty swirling around star pass rusher Jonathan Cooper amid an ongoing legal situation. When the NFL handed down its latest wave of suspensions across the league this past week, Cooper's name was noticeably absent from that list, which is an encouraging sign for a Broncos team that needs him disrupting quarterbacks all season long. Nothing is guaranteed, and the process is still playing out, but for now, Denver's pass rush appears to be intact and ready to terrorize opposing quarterbacks from week 1 on. So here we are, Broncos country. 3 teams that the so-called experts are convinced will outwin Denver this season. And every single one of them is dragging around real, tangible baggage into the regular season. New England is mired in a coaching scandal and a contract standoff with its best cornerback. Cincinnati cannot keep its franchise quarterback upright even against backups and is bleeding talent along both lines because of where its cap dollars are going. And Buffalo just handed its team to a rookie head coach who needed to bring in a mentor who never actually finished the job himself. Meanwhile, the Broncos are healthy, hungry, loaded with a rejuvenated offense, and still have one of the most feared pass rushes in football fully intact heading into the opener, if you are a betting person. And I am certainly not telling you to go bet the mortgage payment on this, but if you were looking for a signal, hammering the over on Denver's win total suddenly does not look crazy at all. It looks like common sense. Broncos country, this disrespect has gone on long enough, and it is up to us to make sure it does not go unnoticed. If this video got you fired up the way it got me fired up putting it together, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. Drop a comment down below and let me know which one of these 3 teams you think is in the deepest trouble heading into the season, because I want to hear it. And if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join us for every single breakdown this season as we track the Broncos' path right back to the top of the AFC. Until next time, Broncos country, let's ride.